Ethan Behrman, Left Coast News.
Sadly, we're going to talk about white nationalist domestic terrorism. It's continuing. We have a president, we have Republicans who refuse to acknowledge the reality. We finally are seeing today that some Republicans are willing to speak out about white domestic terrorism, white supremacists, white nationalists who hate brown people. President Trump has absolutely stoked that terrorism. Remember what he just said the other month in Florida, for example? I mean, besides kicking off his campaign with, Mexicans are rapists, Mexicans are criminals, that Mexican judge can't treat me fairly, we need to send them back. His unbelievable, unending, multi-year reign of terror to incite white nationalists, to comfort them, to aid them, has come to an absolute head in the most horrific way possible, with at least 20 dead, 26 injured in El Paso, specifically by a white supremacist who was inspired by President Trump's words at this Panama City, Florida address just the other month. President Trump encouraged this behavior. Take a listen again.
1,000 people marching up, and you have hundreds and hundreds of people, and you have 2 or 3 border security people that are brave and great. And don't forget, we don't let them, and we can't let them use weapons. We can't. Other countries do. We can't. I would never do that. But how do you stop these people? You can't. There's no... That's only in the panhandle you can get away with that statement.
He didn't say the words to shoot them, but he sure laughed about that attendee. Yeah, right here in the panhandle, you can shoot them. Horrible, horrible concept. And then I woke up this morning, Dayton, Ohio, at least 9 more dead, another 26 injured. What do we have in common here? We have generally young, generally white males. We can talk about the mental health aspect, and we will here in just a moment. But here's the problem. They're killing this many. We just had the Gilroy shooting, too. Same exact thing in Gilroy, California, at the Garlic Festival. Ready access to firearms that can rapidly kill people, wound people. In less than a minute, at least 35 people are getting harmed, are getting killed in 1 minute or less. Now, here's my resolution to this. It is time, in the vein of former presidential candidate Eric Swalwell, gun buyback. No more semi-automatic firearms. No more AR-15s. No more AK-47s. Hey, why am I talking about this, by the way? Really quick before I finish answering that question. Who am I? Well, I don't know. I learned to shoot a .22 in the Boy Scouts. I have fired AR-15s. I joined the United States Army Reserve in the infantry. And let's see, I've gone skeet shooting. I've gone hunting. I've used high-powered rifles. I have fired these weapons. I'm not anti-gun. What I am is anti-kill as many people as humanly possible in a minute before the cops who are there on scene can shoot and kill me. So I still killed 9, 10, 20, 30 people. This is why semi-automatic weapons, weapons of war, must be left to the military and to law enforcement, to the National Guard as well. This is not a place for the average American in places like California where you can't even buy the weapon that was used in the Gilroy shooting. You drive to Nevada and you buy it, and then you come back to California and you kill a bunch of people before the cops, or in this case, as we've now found out, he killed himself as the cops were moving in to kill him. This is unbelievable. So you ban semi-automatic firearms. And the first step is to immediately halt the sale. Private or otherwise through gun dealers, etc. You immediately halt the sale of any of these semi-automatic weapons. Any weapon that can repeatedly fire with the pull of a trigger finger, because automatic weapons are already illegal. So those were banned in the 1960s, and you need a very special license that requires an extensive background check before you can own one of the few remaining automatic weapons in the United States. But you ban all the semi-automatics. Immediately, anything that can hold more than 6 rounds and you just pull the trigger and it repeatedly fires should be immediately banned from sale. Any parts, any repair parts, anything related to a semi-automatic weapon, you immediately ban and then later, maybe it's a year from now, we begin the gun buyback programs like Australia, like New Zealand, where it works to reduce possession of these semi-automatic firearms. I'm not at all anti-gun. The key is I'm anti-mass murder of human beings. You only need a revolver, a 3-shell shotgun, a single-shot rifle. Those are what are needed. Those are what should be legal so we can reduce the mass murders. It's obvious. This is the way that we go about it, and we end the national nightmare. In addition, because the Republicans are all about, oh, what about video games? It's ridiculous, by the way. There's no way to stop that. I can stop guns. I can't stop video games on the internet at this point, and that's not even the problem. Mental health is a big issue, and here's the deal. So I have spoken with a psychiatrist here in California, for example, and I said, look, on the homeless topic, let alone the mass murder issue, I said, what would happen if we actually needed all the psychiatrists to address the mental health problems that we're facing? Do we have enough kids, students in the system to fulfill those jobs? Not even close, this individual told me. Not even close. We don't have enough psychiatrists and psychologists. And let alone the fact that the Republicans have absolutely fought tooth and nail to cut the funding of healthcare, kill Obamacare with nothing to replace it. No plan. After 8 years of repeal and replace, the Republicans took over after the 2016 election. They had both the House, the Senate, and they had the executive branch with the presidency, and they have the Supreme Court now, and they had nothing in place for repeal and replace. They just want to repeal. So they're removing access to health care. They're cutting funding for people to get the health care that they need. And remember, mental health care is health care. Mental health is health. These are not separate issues. Everybody goes through something in their lives, something to do with depression, something to do with mental health. It is part of our health care. And Republicans have done everything they can to cut that. So it's absolutely sad. It's hypocritical. It's grotesque when Republicans, after mass murders like these, talk about, well, it's mental health. It's not the guns. Well, you're cutting mental health too. So even if you were right that it's a mental health issue, then you have failed because you have cut mental health care in this country. You have cut the funding for healthcare. You have cut the funding for mental health care. You have decided to dial back things like grants and financial aid you're fighting for colleges. Well, where are you getting these psychiatrists and psychologists from? So are we going to increase H-1B visas to bring in psychologists and psychiatrists from other countries where there are people who could come and fill these jobs that we need? No. So it's sad. So we need to immediately ban the sale of semi-automatic firearms, and then we begin the process of finding the buyback programs, and we start with it voluntarily, and then eventually it becomes a mandatory gun buyback. Yeah. And by the way, for all those, it's against the law. It's against the law. Well, don't forget that it was only in 2008 that our United States Supreme Court finally said, under Justice Scalia, who wrote the majority opinion, that the Second Amendment actually guarantees the individual right to bear arms. And if you bother reading the actual decision, the opinion of the court from Justice Scalia, there is Section 3 of the opinion, and it very clearly states, in the words of Justice Scalia, that we can regulate firearms, that they've been regulated since the founding of this country. And so there is no argument. Well, you can't do that. You can't ban semi-auto. Yes, we can. Yes, we should. Yes, we need the people to stop dying. We need to stop dying at our schools. We need our kids to be safe. Why are my kids having to do live shooter drills? That's insane. It's absolute insanity. We need a president to step up right now. We need Congress to step up right now. This is not the time for thoughts and prayers. This is the time for action. And I demand it now, and I know a lot of you feel the same way. Send me your thoughts. Left Coast News at ethanbehrman.com. Comment, share. Please subscribe. That means the most. And by the way, let me know who you want me to interview. I'm going to move to a video format as well here very soon. So I look forward to talking to you on the other side. Let me know your thoughts. And again, give me a follow on social media at Ethan Behrman.